Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We welcome you back to the afternoon session of the In the Footsteps of Dr. Lily Carroll Jackson, Her Work, Our Work Symposium. We had a great morning, and we look forward to an invigorating and very provocative and informative afternoon as well. My name is Pace McConkey. I'm director of the Robert M. Bell Center for Civil Rights and Education. It's our honor to host this symposium to commemorate the opening of the Lily Carroll Jackson Civil Rights Museum, which was announced this morning will open officially on June the 11th. And more information will be coming from the Office of Museums with respect to that opening. We have come to the point where we will have the rallying cry. Guest remarks, a 2016 rallying cry for racial justice and increased advocacy in civil rights. It is my responsibility now to announce to you that our featured speaker, Dr. Jamal Harrison Bryant, pastor and founder of Empowerment Temple, called us just 40 minutes ago and said that he will not be coming. So we apologize for any disappointment or inconvenience there, but I do not apologize for the opportunity we now have to hear in his place a speaker that will be even more invigorating, and we're excited about that. To have Dr. Carsonia Wise Whitehead, who came here from Loyola University just on 10 minutes notice, and we have to applaud that. Literally, we received a phone call from Dr. Bryant's office and wondered how we might proceed, and within 10 minutes, Dr. Whitehead said that she would gladly come over and address this body. So we are so appreciative, so grateful. We will not be disappointed, I am certain. And in fact, this is a real treat and a great blessing. I'm going to call upon the curator of the Lily Carroll Jackson Museum, Ms. Iris Barnes, to introduce our distinguished speaker.
Thank you, Mr. McConkey. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce Dr. Cassania, or Kaye, as we call her at Morgan, Wise Whitehead. She is such a good friend to us here at Morgan, and I think she loves us as much as we love her, especially evidenced with what she's done today, coming on such short notice. Don't you agree?
Yes.
Dr. Kaye Cassania, Kaye Wise Whitehead, is an associate professor of communication and African American Studies in the Department of Communications at Loyola University and the founding executive director of the Emilie Francis Davis Center for Education, Research, and Culture. Dr. Whitehead is also the author of 4 books, Notes from a Colored Girl, The Civil War Pocket Diaries of Emilie Francis Davis, which received both the 2015 Darlene Clark Hine Book Award from the Organization of American Historians and the 2014 Letitia Woods Brown Book Award from the Association of Black Women Historians. She also wrote Letters to My Black Sons, Raising Boys in a Post-Racial America, and Sparking the Genius, the Carter G. Woodson Lecture, and the co-editor of Rethinking Emilie Francis Davis, Lesson Plans for Teaching Her Civil War Pocket Diaries, and her most recent publication, which is based on Baltimore Uprising, called Race Brave. She is also a featured speaker for the past 3 years at the White House for the Baltimore History panel for the past 3 years. Okay. She is an award-winning curriculum writer and educator, and she is an interdisciplinary scholar with a focus in race, class, and gender. She has a PhD from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, a Master's in International Peace Studies from Notre Dame, and a BA in History from Lincoln University. Please help me welcome Dr. Ksania Wise.
Thank you so much. I will say that I have learned a very valuable lesson today, because I was in my office kicking my feet back going, oh, I have the day off. I'm very excited to do that, and I received a call asking me to come over. In no way am I filling the shoes of Dr. Jamal Bryant, because I am my father's daughter. I can only fill my own shoes, and I can only do my own work. But I want to thank them for inviting me, and thank you for allowing me to address you. If I am not mistaken, my job today is to give you a rallying call, to make you excited about the work we're doing, to make you excited about the teaching of Black history, and to make you even more excited about the legacy of Lily Mae Carroll Jackson. So one of the things I know about her, and I use this in my own classroom, that I've heard people would say they'd rather have the devil after them than have her. Whatever she's asking for, you need to give it to her, because she will not stop asking. So I'm just honored. I know that she was a pioneer and a civil rights activist, and that she was the organizer of the Baltimore branch of the NAACP. I also know that she pioneered this nonviolent civic disobedience that was used by Dr. King. She was a forerunner. She was a trailblazer, and she is the reason that we do the work that we do. And I decided to come before you because this is a week we're talking about whether or not Harriet Tubman should be on the front of the 20 with Andrew Jackson on the back of the 20. So that even in death, Black women have to share their space. So this is the time we have to talk about what it means to reclaim the space where Black women can stand alone. That we don't have to be held up by anybody else's work, because we can do the work on our own. In looking at her legacy, I know that she has shown us how to walk forward with our heads high. She has shown us how to be like geese, knowing your place in the line. One of the things that I found out about Lily Jackson, what they call her Dr. Lily, they call the grandma, mother of the civil rights movement, that she knew her place. She knew when it was time to lead and when it was time to follow. Isn't that a lesson for us all? She didn't need a committee to tell her when it was time to do the work. No votes had to be taken. She knew when it was time for her to step up and make her voice known. That is that notion of claiming space as a Black woman. One of the things I think about as we follow in her footsteps, what does it mean to help bend this arc of justice? Now, some of you are familiar with that as I sit before many of the pioneers of the civil rights movement. We know that this question of how long would it take was first asked in 1853. The Unitarian minister and abolitionist Theodore Parker of Massachusetts said, I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by experience of sight. I am divine by conscience, and from what I see, it bends toward justice. We know that because it was asked 112 years later. When Dr. King was in Selma, Alabama, people cried out and said, how long will it take, Dr. King? How long before the crooked will be made straight? And he said, not long, because a lie cannot live forever. Not long, because the arc of the moral universe bends toward justice. I'm here to tell you that this arc we've been bending has not bent all the way just yet. That we're still bending this arc. We have to teach our young people what it means to stand in line to help bend this arc towards justice. Dr. King said that the universe is on the side of justice. I'm just wondering if we all exist on the same side of the universe. Because justice is taking a long time to get here. We're now dealing with the rulings of Florida v. Zimmerman. I look at, of course, Judge Bell. I think about Shelder v. Holder. I think about what's happening across this land as we begin to dismantle legislation that was put in place during the civil rights movement. I think about the fact that African-American males are still dropping out of school at alarming rates. Justice is still taking a long time to get here. I think about the fact that young Black girls are still being put into juvie detention at a 3-to-1 rate for white and brown girls. Justice is taking a long time to get here. The classroom to prison pipeline is yet to be dismantled. We're still being shot for the crime of breathing and moving and being, while Black justice is taking a long time to get here. So we have a great responsibility because as the arc is bending, those of you who live the history and those of us who studied the history, we must be the ones that we have been waiting for. My sons ask me all the time, Mommy, who are we waiting for? I said, look in the mirror, we're waiting for you.
All right, now.
We're waiting for you to help us bend this arc. We're waiting for you to hurry up and grow up because we're not getting it all right. We need you to make your voices known. If you know the history, if you live the history, then we need you to help teach the history. That when young people say that Black Lives Matter is not your grandfather's civil rights movement, we need to correct them.
Yes.
Because we understand that Black Lives Matter stands on the shoulders
Yes.
of the civil rights movement. That we fought and we died and we bled and we struggled to get us to this place. And when young people say things haven't changed much, I invite them to go and take a look at history.
Okay.
You don't understand. You're thinking about Dr. King, the grandfather, the one who talked about I have a dream. I'm talking about Dr. King who said, let's not sleep through the world's greatest revolution. Let's talk about that Dr. King who got arrested 39 times. Talk about that Dr. King who put his life on the line daily. That's what you mean when you're saying the same things. We were willing to die. And I say we because I am my father's daughter. My father struggled as a civil rights movement leader in Jim Crow, South Carolina. And he told me, he spoon-fed me students of the movement. He said, let me introduce you to this person. And let me introduce you to that person. So when you get arrogant and a little bit of knowledge, you understand that you are here because people paved the way for you to get here. You are not doing it by yourself. And what is interesting for me as I stand here, I am someone whose life is bookended by the work my father did after the death of Emmett Till and the work my sons are doing after the death of Trayvon Martin. I am smack dab in the middle of activism on both sides of my life, where I learned from my father and I'm teaching my sons what it means to stand up and make your voice heard, to stand up and be counted, to not be afraid of what you think they're going to do to you. I often tell them they may kill your body, but your soul will be free if you stand up for what you believe in. Those are the lessons from the civil rights movement. And as my father sent me off to college, and he would say, I have some things I need you to take with you. And those are the things I want to share with you today. Because I think when we send our children off to college, send them off to school, send them to the grocery store, send them to the park, I think of Tamir Rice's mother. We need to have them armed with some tools in their bag. Some tools to help them understand how we got over and how they can get over. What it means to be a survivor. Because survival is an instinct that we have. We have survived much in this country. We've come through American enslavement and we survived that with whips and lashes on our back. We came through Reconstruction, one of the high points of being black in this country, and still understanding that we were black and we weren't free and equal. We came through the nadir of black history when they set up Jim Crow and they kept us in places where we were longing to be, places we were supposed to be because we were American citizens. We came through that because survival is our instinct. Survival every day is our goal in this system. We came through the period of the civil rights movement when we were learning how to stand up. We were willing to die to make our voices heard. We were fighting for the vote, reclaiming our space. We came through because we knew what it meant to be a survivor. Because we've always survived. Harriet Tubman tells us we know how to survive. Nat Turner shows us that we know how to survive. Lily, Carol, Meg Jackson proved to us that we know how to survive. And this survival instinct runs through us and runs into our children. And that is what I tell them every day. You are a survivor. Look yourself in the mirror and know it means you're going to get home safely. You are going to make your voice known. You're going to stand up and do the right thing. You're going to be the man that we're calling you to be. Because you're a survivor. And survival is our instinct. And the 4 tools that my father sent me off with in the short time I still have left with you, they gave me a hard in and out to call me at the last minute. That first tool that my father gave me is grit. Knowing what it means to be able to push all the way to the end. Knowing what it means to call on something greater than yourself. This notion of grit, we talk about this a lot in my family. If you've ever heard me speak, there's one story that I always tell. To me, that sums up what grit is. My son is 13 years old, but when he was 4, he was playing in his room. And I often say it's a wonderful thing when your kids can entertain themselves. And if you're not a mother yet, you will understand what I mean. When they can entertain themselves and you can breathe for a moment, it's like freedom has come calling. So he was playing in his room and he sneezed. And he yells out, "God bless you, Amir." And so I bring him downstairs. And I said, "Amir, you were by yourself. Why did you yell out, 'God bless you, Amir'?" And at 4 years old, he said, "Mommy, sometimes when you're by yourself, you got to bless yourself." I said, "You do. Sometimes when you're by yourself, you got to bless yourself." That's what grit is, having the courage to bless yourself. I mean, I held on to this. I put this up on my mirror. Let me tell you. I put "God bless you" and I added my name. And every time I had a struggle, I reminded myself. When I was working on my PhD with 2 kids under the age of 5, and my advisors didn't think I was going to finish. They didn't understand that I'm a survivor. You don't know who you're talking to. You don't know what's going through my veins. I said, "God bless you, Kaye." They don't know who you are. And there are times in my life when I haven't had enough money to pay the bills on the table. "God bless you, Kaye," because he knows the hairs on your head. And there are times when I send my boys off to school. My oldest son goes to a predominantly white school, and my youngest son goes to a predominantly black school, and both of them are struggling with race issues. Exactly. And I have to say, "God bless you, Kaye. Your work to pour truth and light and love and hope into your boys will not be in vain." And when my boys went down, they marched every day for 10 days for Freddie Gray. Every single day on the line. When they were writing their names on the T-shirt saying, "Mommy, if something happens, you can claim our body." I said, "God bless you, Kaye, because we will stand together. So if the Whiteheads go down, we go down as a family. Because you cannot go out there unless I am with you. God bless you, knowing that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made." So that first tool is grit. Do you have the courage to bless yourself? Do you have the courage to help young people learn how to bless themselves? Do you have the courage to stand up even when nobody else is standing up around you? Do you have the courage to sing Dr. Jackson's song even if nobody else knows the words but you? That second tool that my dad gave me is he reminded me that I had talent. See, my father immersed me in a prick-rich environment. He used to put pictures of brown people on the wall. He said, "When you wake up, I want you to see people that look like you on your wall." And I remember, and I wrote a story about this. I'm looking at Judge Bell. I took my kids down to the Lewis Museum when it opened. I said, "I want to show you something." And see, we didn't have a television when they were younger. So they were like, "What are we going to see?" I'm like, "Something exciting. Trust me, you're not going to believe that." But going through the Lewis Museum and seeing pictures of black people on the wall, taking a look at Judge Bell's robe, I said, "You know him. Mommy met him when she was a teacher. You used to see him." And I remember my son drew his own picture and he put it up at the Lewis Museum on the wall and said, "Mommy, one day I'm going to be on the wall." And I'm like, "You will. One day you will be on the wall because you have talent. You may even not know what you can do, but God put something inside of you." I believe that when he calls you for something, he shows up with a pitchfork. He digs it out of you because there's something unique that each of us are here to do. Are you walking in your life? Are you doing what you've been sent here to do? I want to do so much that when I get upstairs to heaven, I want him to say, "Well done." I want to say, "I spit out everything you've given me. I used my voice, my God-given instrument, because I can't sing. I've used my voice to make this cry known, to be able to speak out against injustice, to speak out against injustice, to speak out when something is wrong, to be the ones we have been waiting for." Your talent may not be singing. Your talent may not be dancing. Your talent may not be writing, but you have something that only you can do. We've got to remind young people of this. We've got to remind them when it's time to stand up, they have to be the one to stand up first. That even if everybody's going right, you go left if left is the right decision to make. So that first tool is grit, having the courage to bless yourself. That second tool is talent, knowing what it is you've been called to do. The third tool my father gave me is opportunity. He said, "I want you to be able to sniff out when something good is happening and follow in that direction. You apply for everything that comes across the table. And what belongs to you will be given to you. You take advantage of every single opportunity they have, because you never know when that opportunity is going to be the one you've been waiting for." I found this out to be true because prior to being a professor and prior to being a school teacher, I had a different career. I'm in my third career now, but I used to be a filmmaker. And I remember I made my first film and it aired at the Cannes Film Festival. I worked long and hard on this film. I was so excited to be there with my mother and 4 people in the audience, right, at 12 a.m. in the morning. But I sat there, there was a woman behind me with her friend, and they talked about the film the whole time. Oh, the director is horrible. Oh, this is the worst film ever. Oh, I can't believe, what is she doing? She should be shot. What is this? And when it ended and the lights went up, I'm sitting by my mom, she said, sit up in your seat. You're wise. And wise is never stupid. You throw your shoulders back. And you be proud of the work that you did. And the woman says to me, what did you think of it? I said, when I made it. I thought I had something here. And she gave me a phone number. She said, when you get back to New York, call this woman. She's my best friend. She'll help you. She walked out. And I was getting ready to ball the number up. My mother said, no. You never know. Angels might even show up as drunk women at 12:01 a.m. You don't know. You don't know. I called that number when I got back to New York. That was the president of MTV. They hired me 2 days later as a producer. That's how I started my first job in filmmaking. Because someone saw a film and gave me a phone number, taking advantage of every single opportunity. You never know when things are going to shift for you. You never know when things are going to change for you. I used to think about that whole notion that they would say, when things get so rough with the road, you just tie a knot and hang on. We've got to teach our young people how to hang on. That things are going to get better because everything shifts. The cloud is always moving. So that first tool is grit, having the courage to bless yourself. That second tool is talent, knowing what it is that you can do and what you've been called to do. That third tool is opportunity, taking advantage of everything. And that fourth tool is faith. You have got to have faith in something bigger than yourself. You cannot do it alone. But you absolutely can do your part. I think faith is knowing when you come to the end of all that you've ever known or seen, and when you get ready to jump out into the darkness, that God will either give you something strong to stand on, or He will teach you how to fly. And this notion of faith is something we have to call upon in these moments. It was faith that got us through every single challenge. Faith is getting us through Black Lives Matter. It's something about knowing what is happening every day. My sons, when they first heard about Trayvon, we sat up all night. And they asked me, Mommy, what are we going to do? Is it time for us to do something? And they asked this question because I raised them knowing about the civil rights movement. We used to practice protest marches in the backyard. They would just sit in booths when they didn't like vegetables. Like, they learned this on the ground. They said, Mommy, what are we going to do? I said, well, what we can do is, I'm thinking, as a mom, we can pray, and we can make a list, and we can write a letter, and I had all these wonderful things. And they said, okay, with Trayvon. And then there was another one. And then there was another one. And then there was another one. And then it was Freddie Gray. And my son sat in that car at 14 and 12 years old. And they said, Mommy, can you drop us off in Freddie Gray's neighborhood? I said, drop you off to do what? Because we're marching today. They moved away from what can we do to what are we going to do. That was the birth of their activism. That's the moment when all that training I poured into them came to life. That's the moment when I felt most afraid as a mother, but more proud than I've ever been. This notion of having faith. Having them get out of the car and say, Mommy, just wait right here. Day for me when we stood behind the Bloods in the Crips. And they said to me, hey, Mom, no problem. Send the boys to us. We got them. My hands started to shake. Sweat was coming down my face. They said, Mom, are you okay? Just give me a second. Give me a second, because you're asking me. Because 2 weeks ago, I would have been driving past you with my windows up and my doors locked. Right. And you're asking me to send you the two precious things, all I have in this world, to send them over to you. And my son said, Kobe, Mama, you got to have faith. And they went and stood behind the Bloods and the Crips. And every time cops came, the Bloods and the Crips said, Kofi and Amir, get behind us. Kofi and Amir, where are you? Kofi and Amir, come behind us. They said, Mom, if they get arrested, we will get arrested too. We will go with them. We cried, my husband and I, nightly. Because we talked about faith, but faith has to have boots to it, right? Yeah. Faith is not enough if all you're doing is pray. You got to have faith, and then you got to move. Yeah. You got to have faith, and then you got to send your boys out. So this notion of having grit and being able to bless yourself, this notion of having talent and being what you're called to be, this notion of having opportunity and opening up every door, and this notion of having faith, if we use these things, we can spark genius in our young people. We can take our homeboys and the scientists, mathematician. We can do what Carter G. Woodson said and spark the genius of young people, set them on fire, and set them loose into the world. We have been called to do this. We can do this in our sleep. We can spark genius in young people, and we can turn this world around. One of the things I want to close with in this notion of a rallying cry for faith and justice is a story my father told me as he was getting ready to leave me in college. Many of you might remember that moment when your parents unpacked the car and you realize that they're actually leaving you there. The whole you've been saying, I can't wait to get out of here, can't wait to grow up. And they've unpacked your bags. And my father said, okay, well, I want everybody to go to the car. And I'm crying. He said, I need to talk to you. And he set me down for a second. He said, I want to tell you about a man who wanted to build a boat. And here I am crying because I'm at Lincoln University. And I'm like, I don't know if I can stay. And he said, you know what? There's a man who wanted to build a boat. Nobody had ever seen a boat before. He said he kept talking to his crew every day. Put the boat together. Put the planks this way. Use the nails. But nobody could ever do anything. He told his wife, he said, they can't seem to build this boat. He said, here's what you do. He said, you take them down to the water and you have them take off their shoes and put their toes in the water. And then you have them bend down and pick the sand up in their hand. You have them close their eyes and sniff the sea. And then when it gets to be dark, you have them watch the moon begin to rise up out of the ocean. If you do that, they will run to make a boat because everybody wants to see what's beyond the sun. He said, your job here at Lincoln University, be the one that leads them beyond the sun. Be the one that reminds them that we have places to go and things to do. Be the one that we have been waiting for. And I add to that, I'd like everyone here to be like Ma Jackson. Be the one the devil says, come after me, because if you go after her, you're going to end up giving away everything. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, God has a way, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
That was so great. Dr. Sonia Wise Whitehead, we're so appreciative that you came and shared your spirit with us. Thank you so much. We, better than planned, better than planned. So another hand, thank you. That was wonderful. So at this point, we are prepared to proceed with the third panel of the day to address systemic racism in policing, law enforcement, and the criminal justice system. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Edwin Johnson, who is